Yeah, so this is the 6th community dialogue on the subject of how can the study group help us do regeneration work at a landscape level. And after the breakout groups, now we are in the main session, and I will ask facilitators to share their notes about what was said in their group.
I can start.
Hi, Tara. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's Tara. I was in a group with Shimon and Helen, and we're all living in cities. So what stands between us and regenerating entire landscapes is having to either leave where we're living or get involved, I think, civically is what we kind of deduced. And because cities are still landscapes, right? And they are very degraded. And in some of us, for some of us, age and physicality and time in relationship, like time left in relationship to land, are also things that stand between large scale regeneration. And so we thought our next steps can be local projects, either backyard permaculture or maybe some urban planning or getting involved with motivating and changing the culture locally. And we found that this study group, and I'm going to just try to say what we thought, and then if anybody, Shimon and Helen, if I missed anything, please join in. But we all kind of agreed that this study group was tremendously helpful in keeping us motivated and educated and connected to each other and globally, and keeping these issues really fore of mind and top of heart, and inspiring. So we thought it could help us, I think Shimon said, like, level up and like be top of game and connecting with people who get all the references. And Joe, there was a shout out to you, like a thanks for being the one to bring us all together and connect us to other people who really understand from various perspectives this group. And one thing Helen thought was this group helps her juggle and can help her continue to juggle, like being in a world of collapse and investment within a structure and a locality and a system, and the bringing in the new. So subgroups were requested as it's, you know, maybe something more local or more specified. Opportunities for partnership, and maybe opportunities for leadership in local or global ways, and connecting are all things that we want from the study group. So did I miss anything, guys? That was us. And thanks again, everyone. Looking forward to hearing from y'all.
Thank you, Tara. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Max, yeah, please.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is actually a good sequence because our group talked more about large-scale regenerative projects. So we were looking more at not how to put regenerative projects in our local pre-existing context, but kind of the where to go, the whether or not there is a pre-existing community, but how to take a step into landscape scale regeneration, I think was a common theme for our group, which is obviously implicated quite a bit by the factors of societal structure in place or not in place, kind of where to make that next step, I suppose.
Thank you. I can go next. I was the facilitator of my group, where I was with Mike and Pablo, and they are both new to the study group. Pablo actually just found out about it today through a video that he also shared with me. And so to a video where Joe was explaining about his ideas, and he was really impressed, and so he joined today the Zoom call. And so in the first question, what's between us and being able to start regenerative work? So Mike in particularly focused the problem in land ownership, because he's interested in a piece of land in Oregon, and there are issues about around the ownership. And he also mentioned a group of young people that tried to buy this land that was initially owned by a religious institution, but then they, because of conflict, they ended up, splitting, and the project died because of that. So the other problem Mike mentioned was social interaction between people, and yes, and then Pablo is the owner, and of course, if you want to add anything, Mike and Pablo jump in after. And so Pablo is the owner of a health food brand that is growing, and one of the main product that they sell is quinoa from a region of High Plain in Bolivia, where they try to help these small farmers, but the land where they grow quinoa is degrading very rapidly from one year to the other. So he's trying to find out what can be done. And he said that his local partner are engineer, so they know about traditional agriculture, but they don't know about what can be done. So he was interested in maybe visiting Barichara when it's possible, and to learn what's possible to bring in there, and he's willing to invest the money of his company, and the revenues, like he mentioned, that 2% of the revenues are invested in research, for example. So that's why he was interested in coming to the study group. And then there was some sharing about blockchains and other more technical aspect, and sharing of resources like Dan Kittredge. That is a good resource for regenerative processes. And as for me, so what stands, it's finding a place, and this is also why I'm here in Tuscany. I wanted to visit a community that is trying to do organic farming and work with nature. And so this is my first step that I'm doing, and I'd like to find a place where I can feel it can be my home, and I can move there and find a community to do this work. And what I'd like to, I'm receiving a lot from this study group. First of all, the inspiration that this is possible, and second, the community, like having several people around the world that are really interested in doing these. I feel pretty isolated where I live in Rome, because I don't know of anyone else that is interested in regeneration. They might be interested in single aspect of it, but to bring all together is what really motivates me. And so I like to have the support of the study group to find ways to find places and visit places that can be the place for regeneration. Yeah, I don't know if you, Pablo or Mike, if you want to add something now or later. Otherwise, and there will be time even afterwards. And there's another study, there's another group. Chris, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about or try and at least summarize what we talked about, what the main threads were in my group with JP and Matt. So in answer to the first question, I think we all voiced in terms of the things that were preventing us from embarking right away. I think we were all bumping up against some limitations or regulations, whether that be political, geographical, or economical, with the immediate physicality that we find ourselves in. And I think that's where the real benefit of this joint study group comes in the useful serendipitous connections that we seem to have in this small world of people into regenerative work, and the inspiration we all bring, and the shared knowledge that together as an online community, we're not bound by these immediate physical localities, and we can all share in the expert knowledge and praxis that we're all doing together. So I think that was a real inspirational part from all of us, and especially in our study group, when we very much acknowledged the social aspect that is key to all of this work. There's the collective healing we need to do as a reflection of the inner healing we need to do in the way we approach decision making, in the way we approach education, and the way we integrate this regenerative work in a community praxis, in addition to all of the specific practice. And there was quite a few other things said, but hopefully that's a general summary. And Matthew, JP, feel free to jump in with anything else.
Anna. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Similar to what other people have already said, in our group, referring to question number 1, what's standing in the way between us and starting a regenerative project for an entire landscape, there's the question of physicality, especially for older people who want to be involved in this kind of work, being isolated in their communities, not necessarily being in a place where there's like-minded individuals, and also just focusing in and getting started. And I think for Greg, the first step was being part of this group, so welcome to the group. It's great that you're here. So directly related to that is how the study group has helped so far, actually, because it's connected us, created community via the interweb. And that is extremely helpful. And these conversations are really helpful because we actually have made several connections. Like, a majority of our breakout room session was to just be like, oh, I think you could talk to this person. Oh, I might be driving through there. And so we can meet up, blah, 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 which is really cool. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been randomly selected to be in the same group. And so I'm thinking, if it's possible at all, if the platform has, a tool that you could publish, it's a way for people to voluntarily share their location in such a way that we can connect to people who are in our bioregions, or who are even in the same city, or happen to be, closer by even than that. That would be really helpful. It also would be helpful for people to identify, oh, look, I know someone who's actually doing a project similar to this near where you live. Maybe you can collaborate, because even with COVID, being geographically close can be extremely helpful, because you're going to be working on similar projects. If you're in Appalachia, like Anita is, then you're going to be thinking about the pipeline and impacts to the environment with those kind of projects. And if you're in Seattle like me, like I am feeling the Seattle freeze more than ever since I've moved back from Italy, and people just don't have a sense of community here. And I would love to see more people sharing tools, for example, or maybe guerrilla gardening around the ditches of North Seattle. Like, that would be cool. And I'd like to use, I think, the platform to connect with people who are in my area to do that. Don't know if that's a possibility with the platform, Joe, but that would be cool.
Yeah, I'd say there are 2 things about this, Anna, because we're also thinking about this. And Shimon is in Seattle, and he's an old friend. So yeah, hey Shimon, shout out to you, my dear friend. One thing about the platform is that it's limited by the amount of data people share. So if someone doesn't give their location on their profile, then we can't find them. So it's really a question of people filling that out on their profile. So that's sort of a wild card of whether that can be done. But one of our members is Alejandro Zagal from Santiago, Chile. And he is starting to do GIS mapping for Barichara, because he does biogeography mapping for projects in Chile. And we're starting to build a network across the Andes with him. And he has shared some ideas about creating a survey tool where we could ask members to fill out a survey and then use the information to help the members connect with each other and have some powerful visualization of the data, because he's a data visualization expert, to be able to show patterns and relationships in the community, sort of like the collective intelligence of all of us revealed by data sets. And that we can do some of that with survey tools. And so there's that. And then additionally, the way that we're starting to form the working groups allows us to create bioregional working groups. So we can start to organize as bioregions. So that's one of the ideas that's already, we're experimenting with a small set of people who are prototyping a UK version. Although the UK is not a bioregion, it is at least a geographic zone that has bioregions in it. And then the Barichara project, because I'm leading the study group, I can give structure to that as a bioregion in the way I present information. So some of those things are starting to happen, but I think we have a long way to go. And there's a lot of capacity.
Yeah, because right now, right as it stands, is if I go in and look at someone's profile and if they share their, location, that's great, that's helpful. But then I have to go and look at everyone's, profile. But having a place that's organized, the groups that are organized by bioregion would fix that.
Yeah, and also this online survey allows us to create like a Google Maps API, where we can generate maps that are searchable using the survey data. So those who are interested in participating can organize themselves that way. So this is some of the kinds of stuff that can be done, which is really cool. But continue others, please. Thank you, Anna.
And Anna, you have some people from Seattle connecting you with resources on the chat. And yeah, I don't know if Anita raises a hand, but I don't know if we have finished with the breakout groups. Is there anyone left?
But I'm actually in that group.
So you're gonna speak
I would like to add something that I brought up in terms of the mapping, and I want to add on to what Joe is saying, because when we think about mapping, very often it's GIS and it's physical. It might be ecological, but I think that Greg was bringing up really what were socioeconomic issues. And so in terms of things like money flows and who represents what, and I think that kind of social mapping is something that needs to be taken into account as well. So, I'm not sure what the tools are. Other people may be more familiar with how to find them, but I think we need to look at those tools as well.
I'll also speak to that, Anna, because it's so important. Alejandro and I are also talking about how to map the value flows for portfolios of regenerative projects, as we've talked about in the Earth Regeneration Fund. And Shimon named in the chat about the work of Kamal Patel, which I also talked briefly about on Saturday, where they're using holochain technology to create community currencies that map value flows. So we can map social systems and economic patterns in really powerful ways with data. And I think that's super important. So yes, on all counts. Is there anyone else who'd like to share from the breakout groups? And if not, then we can go into a more general discussion.
We had our breakout group. It was me and Jason, who's Twist in this group, and then PC. I didn't catch her full name, but she's from Bulgaria. And it was a very interesting conversation, especially how she was seeing sort of the patterns that we have seen here in the United States in terms of the Green Revolution in Monsanto and monoculture cropping and everything really happen over the last 20, 30 years in Bulgaria in these valleys. And so we discussed about how this pattern of land ownership and privatization and profit and capitalism essentially, how that is preventing, it's a big mental wall in terms of trying to find a place in order to regenerate landscapes there in Bulgaria. And the flows of people from these villages into the cities and then out of the country is another thing that she believes might be preventing some good regenerative work. But going to the question about the study group, we kind of discussed how this would be a great opportunity to find other people who have examples of regenerative agriculture or who have been in situations like this, and how they've sort of turned the tide from, you know, a fundamentally extractive model of monoculture cropping, and how they've been successful in maybe pitching to farmers or gathering resources and group regenerative agriculture type areas. So I encouraged her to look into the groups, into the working groups, and make a shout out, I guess, a call out to anybody who has experiences and expertise in those areas. And then Jason was talking about how in the California region, how he is more maybe not a hands-on type guy in terms of doing earthworks and, you know, moving water and stuff, but he's very into research and into gathering data. And I think that's a huge opportunity, especially with this working group, is you don't necessarily need to be physically located in one area in order to help out a bioregion in a different area. For instance, I mentioned the fact that would love if somebody from California was able to point out strategic parcels of land within California that are cheap, desertified, and degraded, that if we were to go in and purchase that land and then help to regenerate it, it would actually help to start replenishing aquifers and would have almost outsized impacts on the region based on just regenerating a small parcel of it, and that we could then use as a test area. So if you guys want to add anything else, I think those were the notes from our conversation that I took away.
Thank you, PJ. And I think Max wanted to add something because he only shared about the first question.
Yeah, thank you, Diego. And also, I neglected to invite Helen or Joe to add. Gloria also joined us on our conversation. And I guess one more thing I would add is that we discussed the element of the almost really very like personal journey of discovery of what the right move would be. Joe shared with us that his connection to Barricada was due to a personal connection with another family that his family integrated socially with, or they had similar interests in how to, I guess, I don't want to quote Joe for himself. I'm sure he can do that better than I can, but we discussed sort of that our discovery of how it is that we can participate in this work is largely due to our responsibilities that come with where we are already, our heritage, and just discovering what that means on the personal level, I suppose. And Helen, Joe, if you want to add to that, please.
So I think that we had all our groups kind of reporting back to the whole group, and I think now it's open for, we still have like 12 minutes till the usual end of our follow-up session call. So if anyone wants to add anything, reflection of what was said, or other topics, or also if new people want to introduce themselves, people that just join. And Anna raised her hand.
This is something that came up very briefly in the presentation on Saturday. I have my experience in research in community-based tourism and sustainable food practices. So in the south of Italy, that's actually something that's really important for the development of these tiny depopulating towns. And I was excited to hear that Barricada is, has, or it did before COVID, you know, had this kind of connection to tourism based on their old craft, or earth-based craft practice and culture. And I guess with the, you know, the virus, that's something that won't be able to sustain them anymore. And they're looking for other ways, or they're looking for other ways to maintain their economy. But maybe this isn't a conversation for now, but I'm wondering if it's possible to have, I guess I could, as members, are we able to create like discussion groups? Because I'd like to have, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we're going to create them together because we want to have coherence. So it's more like as people organize themselves into patterns, we'll form groups. One thing to share about tourism is that there are two sides to tourism. There's the economic side and there's the educational side. The tourism is education. You go to a place and experience it and learn and experience the local food and do arts and crafts. And so one of the ways I'm thinking of Bhattacharya's transformation of tourism is to create regenerative education. And it can still be called tourism.
Absolutely.
So like the network of Caminos Reales, the Royal Roads, the indigenous road system. There's a group here that is talking about creating walking journeys to visit other towns and stay in hostels in those towns and take workshops from local craftspeople. And you see that tourism and education become the same. Absolutely. And there's already a lot of that happens, but it's like a shift of emphasis. And I think this insight of how to make tourism into education is a big opportunity in a lot of places.
Yeah, I'd be interested to talk more if other people have that same interest, if that exists, about I've never even heard the term restorative or regenerative tourism, but it could be, why not? Responsible tourism is where it's kind of limited itself, but if I were to go to Bhattacharya, I would do my PhD and study the impact of tourism on.
Or when you do, when is a fine replacement word? Does anyone else have thoughts or reflections you'd like to share about anything, what we've talked about, or a new topic?
Greg, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, let me, let's see.
No, you were unmuted before and now you're muted. Okay, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, nice meeting everybody. This is my first video call. I've been sort of, you know, looking at the emails and the stuff on material online. I guess just to cut to the chase, what I really connect with that was just said is kind of feeling a responsibility to our land, where we are, and in a very, you know, almost a somatic, visceral way that this is our home. So I thank you for bringing that up. I like connecting at that level. There's a lot that can be said, but I enjoy the heart that's coming out in the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And if you're familiar with Peter Berg's work, do you know Peter Berg?
No, I've heard the name, but.
Yeah, the Planet Drum Foundation. He lived in San Francisco. He passed away about 10 years ago. And one of his fundamental reframes was the shift from resident to inhabitant, that the globalized economy makes us residents of cities. And it's just like when you sit with that difference of concepts, home is inhabitant, it is not resident. There's a deep idea of being in a habitat. So you're touching on something really powerful. So thank you. Are there other thoughts, reflections, including future directions, like where you'd like to see these conversations go for anyone in the group?
Just to piggyback on Greg real quick there, because I appreciated what he said and the idea of the somatic connection to the land. I think we can augment that subject into, just the impact that eating healthy food has on the human body. If you want to convince somebody that regenerative agriculture is a good idea, you know, make them a salad, you know, make them a salad.
Oh, I've got an example actually for everyone. If you can see my screen, because my daughter found this a moment ago. This is a caterpillar that you do not want to touch. That's becoming a cocoon because it's got spikes on it that will sting you. And so these somatic experiences, I don't know if I can get close enough with my laptop, but that is a caterpillar you don't want to touch. The somatic lesson is immediate.
Well, and that's funny because where I'm from, we have a lot of ticks in the woods, and as much of a greenie as I am, sometimes I get out in the woods and I'm picking ticks off my legs left and right, and it's not fun. So there's definitely a lot of like reality checks going on when it comes to getting involved in, you know, being directly in the earth and all that entails.
Absolutely.
So, can I make a suggestion? We talked about mapping before, and I said something about that, and also about listing people's locations. But I'm wondering, at some point, would it be possible to actually also have, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I have to offer.
Yeah.
So that it's possible just to look through the whole thing without sending a lot of emails out to everybody, and, you know, be able to zero in a little more quickly.
Yes, there's a formal structure called Offers and Needs, and the Post-Growth Institute describes how to do this. If you're in a physical setting, you can take Post-it notes, and in one wall you put what you have to offer, and the other wall you put what you need, and then you just go up and name to the group, "Hi, my name is Joe, and I offer you know, a shoulder to cry on, and I need a new pair of shoes." You know, and you put whatever it is. And sometimes people make jokes, which is actually really insightful. And sometimes it's really serious things. And so that's a way we can actually do that. I've seen it done in WhatsApp with emoticons, where you use one emoticon for things you offer and another emoticon for things you need, and create a gift economy. And there's a group that's been doing that here. There's what's called the Economic Support WhatsApp group in Barichara. Actually does this, where people do offers and needs with emoticons. And so we could definitely create an offers and needs space in the study group. It'd be very easy to do.
Me. Joe, I'm interested, you mentioned in the webinar that your activity in Bodhidharma are almost illegal.
Oh, no, it's not that what we're doing isn't illegal. It's that all of the housing development in the area around the town that's destroying the forest is technically illegal, but there's no enforcement. So they can get away with it because either there are corrupt local officials that are benefiting from it, or it's just we're far enough in the mountains that no one's paying attention. It's just, and you know, Colombia has a history of multinational companies hiring mercenary fighters. And so basically there's a rule of might makes right that is, and not so much in Barichara, but in other parts of the Andes. So it's not exact, what we did that was illegal was we would go and take our compost to the Bioparque with our daughter when no one was supposed to leave their house because of the lockdown. So we were being
not to be afraid of you. No, I was upset really. And another thing I will be really interested to know is from where you will start the regeneration of this really big landscape.
Well, it actually was started 10 years ago by two women, Camila and Vicky, because they were empowered with 6.5 hectares of land to create a food forest in a community park. And
only two people.
Yeah, only two people, and they've done most of the work. And last week, they formed a governing committee for the park, the first time this has happened. And my wife and I were invited to join that committee. So we are now helping to manage the community food forest. And this is a a lot of students have come through and been trained here in the last 10 years.
Nice, really nice.
So there are other places too, but that's a really central one for Bodichara.
Are they satisfied with the food forest they created 10 years after that, after the beginning?
No, they didn't really know what they were doing at first, and they made a lot of mistakes. I mean, it's true, like it's true in so many places. But as they've learned, it's become a really beautiful place. And during the COVID lockdown, it's been a sanctuary for people in the community who go there in the morning to walk their dogs, to have some quiet time. It's been an incredible place of healing in the last 4 months.
And how many acres you said is the food forest now?
It's 6.5 hectares, so it's about 12 acres.
Yeah, it's really big one, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. But could you please send us pictures for this food forest?
Yes, and also if you become my Facebook friend, I think I share about 1,000 pictures.
Please, please.
Usually I have a cute little 3-year-old that's in the picture.
Thank you, thank you. Please, we need more, please. Because this is big challenge there. Deforested 40 years ago, it's really big challenge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's mirrored in many places.
We are close to the end of our call. I don't know if anybody wants to add some final thoughts, and please share in the chat if any suggestion for the format of the call. For example, if you prefer to have 3 breakout groups instead of 2, like we experimented today, longer main session, final main session, and also if you like the reporting and volunteer facilitators, and we are trying to improve it every time, or change it every time and experiment. So any feedback about the format is very useful. And this recorded portion will be uploaded to YouTube and then posted on the study group website, so you can rewatch it later. And if nothing else, I'll leave it to Joe to close.
Well, the only thing that I will say is that I just feel deep gratitude to all of you for being here participating. And some of you might have noticed that this morning I reformatted and published every chapter of my book on the study group in a new section called the Design Pathways. So for those of you who are interested in reading the entire book, it's all there now. Sections, now that there's so many people and we're starting to form these working groups. So you'll start to see some changes in that structure to make it easier to work with. But I really appreciate all of you being here.
Well, thank you, and see you next time. Bye.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Be well. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys. See you next time.
Bye, Pablo.